Welcome back. This is Joshua Ward with Z Change Me, and we are looking at the series of attachment styles in the childhood to see how, as a parent, can we do things maybe a little differently, or seeing where your child is at right now and try to move them towards a more of a secure child. Now, there's four major attachment styles. There's going to be secure, anxious, avoidant, and then fearful. Now, there's different names you can have for different ones, but we'll talk about that more when we go into that specific style. But before we go into that a little deeper, let's look at what kind of things I have on my channel. I have relationships, single dad, that's who I am, that's what I'm about, personal growth, and also attachment theory. And so looking at this holistically, I believe that a lot of these categories can kind of run into each other. Even though this is going to be more of a personal growth, this technically can be utilized in attachment and also in relationships, because you can use these tools of understanding attachments with relationships. Now let's do a brief overview of the anxious adult characteristics. Now anxious. Anxious, which is the long form, it's going to be called anxious preoccupied, is mostly used or widely used over anxious ambivalent, but I have both here just so for completeness sake. And they say 25% of the population is anxious, and majority of those are women. Now, I think in 21st century, I believe that more men are becoming more anxious, but that's my own perspective. And they have a negative view of themselves, but a positive view of other people. So they lack trust in themselves, but they trust the outside world. Now, I have a great video. It's called Attachment Styles, easily broken down, so you can have a good understanding of where you are and what's going on. What are attachment styles? Look at that to get a good background on it from there. But there's two major characteristics with the anxious, right? They have a severe and strong fear of rejection. And that really comes from childhood, and all the insecure attachments have some type of rejection, abandonment issues. But rejection is more with anxious. But when you're born with three major fears: the fear of loud noises, the fear of falling, actually a fear of abandonment. And so just different attachment styles that are insecure, they'll interpret abandonment in different ways. And rejection is how anxious. And then also, they really is shown with certain characteristics of being clingy in relationships. Just don't want to let go and always around. That's the MO of an anxious characteristics for an adult. Now on to the next one. What are the risk factors associated with an anxious child that will produce an anxiously attached adult? You gotta remember that this is usually generational for all the attachment styles. If you're an anxious parent, it's most likely you're in an environment that was anxious, that will subconsciously, what's going to happen with you, you're going to project that same situation on your children if you don't work on yourself or start to heal yourself. Now, there's two specific risk factors compared to three non-specific risk factors, but let's start with the first specific risk factor, which is going to be inconsistent parenting. Now, I alluded to this when I talked about this in the securely attached video, and I'm going to bring this in a little bit because it's good to compare the both. Now, what happens to a secure individual, they have consistency in their parenting. And so what happens is they start to expect that when they get older. So when people are inconsistent with them, they'll be like, yo, nah, I'm secure, I'm good. But if you were, say, anxiously attached, inconsistency was normal. You had your needs met, but then sometimes you didn't. And it was always back and forth. It's not just a one-off, or it rarely happens, but it's like hot and cold, almost like bipolar. What happens is they expect that in relationships. So when they get down the road, any relationship, friendships, relationships, and then people who are inconsistent, they'll stay around because that's what they're used to. Or they may be even causing some of the inconsistency. While the people who are consistent are boring, are there no chemistry, or you know what, we can be friends, but more of acquaintances than actually friends. I had a lawyer once tell me that if you were a billionaire and you went to Las Vegas to gamble and you won all the time, will you continue going? No, it'll get boring after a while. Now, if you're a gambler and you go to Las Vegas and you lost all the time, you're a billionaire, will you continue going? No, it doesn't make sense. It's that constant back and forth which causes the addiction. Now, that's what she was telling me, but I think it's actually people who are anxiously attached that are used to it, that's what causes that. Now, there's no studies on it. Maybe they're not. I can probably look something up if I can try. If I do, I will put it here. But inconsistent parenting is number one. Number two, emotional hunger. What happens is parents will sometimes like live vicariously through their children, and they'll hover and be overprotective, and but they're not really doing it for the child. Subconsciously, they're doing it to get their needs met, not the child's. And so what happens is they're so involved and so ingrained that the child doesn't really even trust themselves because the parent was always doing everything and being involved. And what happens is they start to not trust themselves and trust the people that are around them. And so when they're out in the world, they always will try to latch onto people in that way. So those are the two specific risk factors. Now let's talk about the three non-specific, because these can be also with fearful avoidant and also dismissive avoidant. And so that's why it's really non-specific. The first one out of the non-specific is going to be emotional distancing. It's the parents not there emotionally. They have everything they need, food, shelter, everything you need, but emotionally they weren't really there. And especially when situations were really anxious, or the child was anxious and they had a lot of distress, they just completely was like, figure that trash on your own. All right, but that also can cause other problems with other people. Now, the psychological and physical abuse. I mean, I think that's more understood, but I feel like those are going to be more associated with the fearful avoidant, because of usually that cause a little chaos in their mind about what's right and what's wrong. And then you have lastly is being separated from your caregiver at a young age. Again, those things could easily go into either one, but the inconsistent parenting and also the emotional hunger is really the staple marks of what can really potentially cause an anxious attached adult from their childhood. And so what are the anxious child characteristics? Extremely distressed when separated from the parents, and also could be inconsolable whenever upset, not easily comforted, clinging to parents and caregivers, fear of strangers, poor relationships with other children, limited exploration of their environment, appear anxious in general, difficult regulating, controlling negative emotions, and displaying aggressive behavior. So we talked about the childhood environment, but now let's see what that produces in symptoms for adults. Number one, it's gonna be they become caretakers that self-sacrifice. Now they're amazing. They will help and take care of who want to take care of, but the problem is they start to neglect their needs. They abandon their health and abandon their relationships and their work duties, and they sacrifice those things for other people because they don't have proper boundaries. And I have a great video on boundaries that talk about it, and anxious individuals have a really hard time with boundaries compared to the avoidant counterpart, which they have no problem setting up boundaries. Number two, they love easily and can get obsessed. They can get obsessed with a person they're not even in a relationship with. And they love like within weeks or a month, 2 months, while that takes the secure and avoidant attachment a little bit longer for them to get to that type of feeling. And I'm getting interrupted. Yes, you want to jump rope? Okay, you want to jump rope? Come here, come on, jump rope, come on. All right, one jump. Oh, great jump. All right, let me finish my meeting, okay? Okay, 2 jumps. All right, okay, I'm almost done, okay? That was very good, very good. All right, so number three, their willingness to, that was crazy, right? Kiddo, love it or death. Number three, their willingness to improve. Their willingness to improve, the willingness to reflect, self-reflect, which is a great skill. So what's wrong with that, Josh? But if you don't have the right healing, what happens, people can take advantage of it. Friendships can take advantage of it. Relationships can take advantage of it. The job can take advantage of it. And so what happens is you start to try to improve where you never will get there, and it causes a lot of anxiousness and depression and things of that nature. So, but if you can heal that trauma and then become more secure, it can be a major asset. And I got another video, sorry to keep putting these plugins, but I got another video called Superpowers from Healed Trauma. And so understanding that it became, even though it could be a situation that came from a place of negative, it actually can produce a very positive on the back end once you start to do some healing on yourself. Number four, the constant need for reassurance, trying to get validated in relationships and that they're worthy in relationships on a constant basis. And number five is gonna be just the strong fear of abandonment. They get jealous easy, they're always suspicious of the relationship, they're very clingy, they just are a huge fear of rejection, and so they try to do things over the top to keep it from happening. And usually it's too much, and it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, there are 4 healing ways to heal anxious attachment. And the number 1 is going to be stay in the present. So many things can pull you from the past and pull you into the future. And what happens if you stay in the past, it actually causes depression because you're stuck into something that's probably you're thinking about and trying to understand, and it can keep you from enjoying what's going on. Or it can be you're thinking about the future, which causes anxiety. You can't change the future, so do the best what you can in that present with the future in mind. So that will help you prevent all these things. Number 2, reparent your inner child. Like, you had certain traumas, neglect, or people who are just inconsistency, and understanding that origin, you can start to look in your future and see if those situations are really serving you in the moment. Number 3, recognizing behavior patterns. All right, so like what happens is, like, when you have certain outcomes that you don't like, thinking about it and, okay, why am I doing that, and actually doing a backtrack on it. BTEA is a great video, watch it if you can, because it helps you understand where your belief system is and try to understand how you can eventually start to change it. And then that really leads to number 4 is your thoughts. Like, sometimes what happens with anxious individuals, they get stuck in their thoughts so much and their emotions so much, they conjure up this like fantasy perspective, and then they feel like it really is what's going on or what's going to happen. And you don't know the future. Anxious individuals have an ability to kind of predict certain things, but you don't know what the future holds. So be in the present with the future in mind, and understanding that being present is important. You got a gift for me? Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, look at that. I appreciate it. Can you put it in the bathroom? All right. Okay, thank you. Can you close the door, please? Close the door, please. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. And I know she's gonna close it. But those are the 4 things you can do, right? All right, so stay in the present, parent your inner child, recognize the behavior patterns, and also start to think of like, is these things really serving me in the moment? So final thoughts, guys. Again, understanding the anxious attachment style and how it has an effect on you can have a dramatic way of helping your children and helping yourself improve over time. These individuals, again, have a lot of inconsistency. You have parents who are trying to get their needs met through their children, which produces a lot of issues down the road. That's not including the neglect from emotional distancing and things from that nature, but having a better understanding on potentially if that's who you are and that's where you became, understanding where you are and what you need to do to improve yourself, because the main thing is to really help your children and help yourself. More is about, it is helping yourself, because if you don't truly become better, what happens is we're going to project those same problems and maybe multiply problems for our children. I think as parents, the thing is to be a great parent is to constantly trying to improve. There's no right or wrong on what to do, but if you're constantly trying to improve yourself to make yourself better for yourself and the people you love and care about, then I think that's what a good parent is. All right, and so it doesn't matter about where you start. It's really just, are you trying to get better for the people you care about? So thank you again for staying here. Please like and subscribe. I need to start saying that earlier in my videos so people can like and subscribe before they jump off of my video. But again, as I end all these calls, if you have kids, slow down and give them a hug. Sometimes we forget, man, when was the last time we actually did that? And tell your kids they're worthy. Tell them they're worthy and they're amazing because they're your child. Not because they do things, because without that, they're gonna start seeking the outside validation instead of having that internal validation that they're capable of doing it because they can. So thank you again, enjoy the content. I can't wait to see you in the future.